Hey guys, how's it going? And welcome back for another strategy spotlight with the Terminator. 2021 and 2022 are looking like golden years for strategy gaming. We've got Knights of Honor 2, Manor Lords, Falling Frontier, Warhammer 3, loads of games that are all in development and will hopefully be released or at the very least come out on early access in the next year. It's definitely exciting times, but there's one game that when announced shocked the world, and that is Victoria 3. A strategy game that puts diplomacy, economic, and political management and all other strategy games to shame. So in this video, I'll be spotlighting the highly anticipated successor in the Victoria series, including an overview of the game with what we know so far, why it's so unique in the genre, and how it's very likely gonna blow all our socks off. Announced back in May, Victoria 3 is a historical sandbox simulation where you direct a country's military, political, and economic pursuits while grappling with the power struggles and economic tug-of-wars of the 19th and 20th centuries. The game is the successor to Victoria 2, a giant among strategy games that was an instant hit, but Victoria 3 is set to be the modern take, with more intuitive and accessible features while still keeping true to the core mechanics of the game. It's very similar to other Paradox titles in that you take control of a nation and have various different ways of expanding your borders or spheres of influence, but it's a whole beast of its own with a setting that puts you right smack in the middle of revolutionary times and industrial progress. So prepare yourselves for a historical game that will throw at you everything it's got. From the basics, we know that the game will be set in the years 1836 to 1936, and there will be 4 ticks per day, much like in EU4. There will be roughly 730 states and 13,000 provinces, so around 18 provinces per state, and you will have the choice of well over 100 countries to play as. There are loads of decentralized countries as well, so nations that don't exactly have an autonomous or recognized government, they're a bit behind technologically as well. Paradox has confirmed there are plans to expand the game for you to be able to play some of these countries, but as it will be such a different style of gameplay, it won't come in base game. It will likely be an expansion. Victoria 3 will also have a full world population with each individual able to interact with markets, political systems, and more. So over 1 billion people at the start of the game with a potential for it to roughly double by the end. The main addition to this gameplay mechanic for Victoria 3 is dependence, which will range from men and women who work in different parts of industry in your country, and children, of course, who will grow up and join your main working population. So far, we only have footage from the announcement that is from the pre-alpha state of the game, so there are areas that will still improve, but from what we can see, it's a great looking game that looks better than Hearts of Iron 4, but maybe not as good as Imperator Rome or Crusader Kings 3. Yet. There's still more to do, so just keep that in mind. And this is the only glimpse we've had yet of the hotly anticipated game, so there will likely be more footage coming out, especially from more developed versions of it in alpha or beta that are definitely more fleshed out and will likely look a lot better as well. Victoria 3 is being developed with everything but military conquest in mind first. That isn't to say that you won't have opportunities to invade, colonize, subjugate, annex. You absolutely will. But the game is being developed pretty much as a world sim of the time period. The idea is you can absolutely paint the map, but you can do that in many more ways than just militarily. You can take the economic route, for example, and try to expand your market across the world and have different nations trade in your currency, expanding your influence economically and using things like diplomacy or even military intervention when things don't go your way. We've got a variety of diplomatic options as well, coined as diplomatic combat, from conquer state, liberate subject, or declare independence, to ban slavery, take colony, or even unify region, as in, for example, if you wanted to try and unify Germany, and much more. Influence is currency in this game, so the more diplomatic power and clout that you have, the more likely certain actions will be available and successful. Another interesting part about Conquest is that the devs don't want every war to be a world war. There's room for negotiations. Countries can change sides if offered the spoils of war, or you can mobilize your army before war is officially declared, and maybe that puts the opposing country off and they end up standing down. The devs are basically doing their best to make the game more about you doing what comes to you naturally, adapting to different circumstances and choosing your own path. Finally, war and combat mechanics generally hasn't been revealed much. It's unfinished and will likely take a bit more time to flesh out before we see more details in this area of the game, which makes sense. From everything we know, so much effort has gone into the more peaceful mechanics of the game that they would really need to put a lot of thought and effort into how to balance it all with the more violent alternatives. As with Victoria 2 and most Paradox games, Victoria 3 is a true grand strategy game. There will be a lot to it. Micromanagement is definitely going to be a big factor, but from the gameplay footage and images released, it does look cleaner, sleeker, and more user-friendly, and that is a big plus in my book. It looks like they're approaching this area a lot like they did for Crusader Kings 3, making user interfaces a lot more friendly and things like tool tips that will give you the information you need to really be successful in the game. With a new game like this, where new gameplay mechanics such as the dependence or political systems are being added, micromanagement can easily get out of hand and become a pain to deal with for the player, especially the newcomer to the series. So having a cleaner UI is very welcome, as long as it doesn't strip out features. For me, the most interesting part about this game is the time period. Vic 3 isn't just about how you can expand your sphere of influence around the world or declare war on your neighbor. It's primarily about dealing with the internal political and external diplomatic events and circumstances that can change anything and everything. Imagine, for example, that you're the US, a capitalist country, but you've been slowly feeding anarchists power here and there. At some point, this can turn into an all-out revolution against the capitalist system, and you can choose to side with the revolutionaries. And if they succeed, you'll end up with an anarchist state with a council republic government that puts farmers and factory workers first. Or maybe you're a minor power, tending to your internal garden, so to speak, but with your eyes set on becoming a major power. You encourage immigration, maxing production, and beginning a small sphere of influence in your local region. You've got a loyal group that supports you, but they're starting to die off. As the older generation of the population start dwindling in number, you're left with a younger generation that don't want to work as hard and are unhappy, and so they don't support you as much. You have to deal with that. It's these kinds of things, the possibilities of things that are out of your control leading to events that you have to deal with, that will make this game shine and likely make it one of the best strategy games we've ever had. To say I'm excited is a gross understatement. Paradox are doing dev diaries, guys, so if you want to keep up to date with the work in progress, how they're approaching different systems and mechanics, and get more gameplay reveals, then definitely check them out. We don't have a release date just yet, but I imagine it will be sometime in the next year, so not long to go. And that's it, guys. Victoria 3 is my 7th spotlight, and next to other upcoming games like Knights of Honor 2, will very likely be a giant among strategy games that will be played for years and years. I hope you enjoyed this video, guys, and found it informative. If you did, give the video a like and absolutely drop your thoughts and any questions at all in the comments section below. What do you think about Victoria 3 so far? Definitely subscribe to the channel for more strategy content, gameplay, and news like this, especially if you'd like to see more spotlights. And thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.